Hey everybody, I'm going to talk to you about something that I've been focused on a lot in my business, and this video is not going to be for everybody. This video maybe is going to be more for some of the students that have been in for a longer time period, right? So for those of you guys that are starting out, this might not be applicable, but I would say keep it in your back pocket, because at some point as you grow and as you scale, this stuff is going to be important. And I'll tell you, one of the mistakes that I made when I was starting out, for those of you guys that are newer to the game, one of the mistakes I made is the way I hired people, okay? And because I was poor at hiring people, I was poor at interviewing, explaining and setting the expectations, I ended up having to fire people. And it like, looking back on things, I think it was my fault. It wasn't necessarily that these were the wrong people, but you know, I didn't do a good job of kind of filtering through some of these people. So now, you know, what I do is when I do my interviews, I get these people on a call. It's got to be a video call. I want a video call every time. If you're not comfortable in front of the camera talking to these people from around the world, and you want to grow a big agency, my advice is to like get your reps in. Just like maybe we're not comfortable with sales or some other part of the aspect, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. And it was certainly true for me. You know, I really wasn't comfortable, so I would kind of do the path of least resistance, which maybe is just a back and forth chat through Skype or, you know, one of those programs, so that I could kind of get a feel for them. But if you can get somebody on a video call and you can actually look at their face and you can kind of come up with some questions, have them explain to you, and you can start simple. Have them explain to you what their experience is, what they've done, you know, ask them what they do in their free time. Be looking for whether you trust this person. It's okay if you don't have a background as a professional poker player, right? You don't need that. But you can trust your gut, right? Have a notepad where you can be taking notes. Give them a score of 1 to 10, a subjective score of 1 to 10. My advice is don't hire for a position until you've interviewed at least 10 people, okay? Be looking for things that clue you into intelligence. So for instance, if this person says that when they are not working, they like to play chess and read, that's very different from somebody who says that they play video games. And I would get casual with it to some extent. Like, try to get them to be comfortable, because sometimes I think this nervousness that they have can misrepresent itself. And maybe we think that, you know, they're slow to respond and maybe they're dishonest, but maybe they're just nervous. So if you can keep it a little bit more casual and make them feel comfortable. So if they do say they play video games, just ask them what they play. Like, why do you like it? Get down to it. Find out who they are. Pretend you're sitting at a bar with someone and you just want to get to know them. And through this conversation, kind of see if this person is going to represent what you want in your company. Okay, so all right, so I read this really good book recently, and I've been looking for ways to kind of have a system within my business, because there's different thresholds we're going to hit in our business as kind of the evolution of our business. So I think the first one most people are going to find is somewhere around $10,000. So going from like $0 to $10,000, that's a big process to get started. Kind of like get things in place. You got to understand the training. You got to figure out how do you find clients. But now once you hit that $10,000 range, you're getting a lot of momentum, and it starts to be a little bit more than you can handle. So now you have to solve the problem of hiring people. Okay. So I don't think this video is necessarily for that person, but you know, I think it's important no matter where we are, if we start with the end in mind. Okay. So hiring good people from the beginning is important, but this video is probably going to be more for, you go from 0 to 10,000. That's the first point. The next point is like, you're going to go from like 10,000 to 25 or 40, somewhere around in that point. You're going to start to get overwhelmed, because probably what you've done, if you're like most people, you've created some VAs. You got your VAs doing all kinds of things, building your sites, writing your content, building backlinks, all this type of thing. But you're always the person that's talking to the client. You're the face of the company, right? So you're the person that is carrying on all these conversations with each client, and that's going to be your next threshold, is how are you going to replace yourself in that manner? So one of the things that I think you need to do is you need to create an organizational chart. And a lot of this stuff is in this book right here that I have. It's called Traction. It's an excellent book. I recommend that you don't buy the audio book, don't buy the Kindle version, get one that you can actually have in front of you. There's some like graphs and charts and stuff, and you're going to want to be able to look at that and not have it be on some little tiny Kindle screen or something that you can't. I don't know. It's just, I think it's a lot better if you have it in here. They got a lot of rules and like lists and stuff. But this book, it's, you know, this system, traction. It's called EOS, which stands for Entrepreneur Operating System. This has been around for a long time. There's been a lot of big companies that have used this. So I'm in the process of implementing this into my business. I'm gonna go over some of these the highlights that I've taken away from this and how I think it's gonna really take my business in a positive direction. So the threshold that we're reaching is when we get to that 25-40. How do we go from there to $100,000, $250,000 a month? Well, there's gonna be a lot of stuff that we're gonna have to have in place. We're gonna have to have managers, right? And what I think you're gonna need is like at least a two-tiered structure where as you have more employees and you have more clients, you can't have everybody coming to you. That's the bottleneck. At some point, you are going to be the bottleneck, and I think that's kind of that third threshold point, that third inflection point, where it's like now I need to replace parts of me that have like I've got everyone doing my processes, building my sites, we're rocking and rolling with that stuff. How do I get myself out of the picture a little bit now? So you're going to need a multi-tiered management structure, right? You're going to need managers that can delegate to all your different VAs and make decisions on your behalf, and you're gonna have trusted these people. So what I did is I went through every part of our process and I made videos, and then I started making checklists on everything. So I'm gonna walk you through a little bit of that. All right, so some of you guys are probably familiar with Asana. If you're not, maybe you've got another program you're using. What we use is Asana. I think you could probably apply these same principles no matter where you are. So this is what we're doing to help us scale, is we kind of designed you see our newer fancy template. This is what we did. So maybe this won't work for you, but maybe you can take away some inspiration. We've been through a lot of evolutions of this. So we have these milestones at the top, and then we have these different sections. And you can see that we have like milestone phase 1, and then down here we have like phase 1, right? So these are going to kind of correspond with each other. So what we say is like, for phase 1, this is what I want to happen. I want the home page live, the contact page live, a privacy policy in place. If we're going to be running ads, we're going to build out the landing page. Then we have like a GMB process. We get reviews and citations from different sources. So this will take us through, and we're going to kind of clean this up based on the project demands. But as we complete these different things, we move out of phase 1. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of give you that overview of that. So we're going to pop back over here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this book here, Traction. So one of the things you're going to want to do from the beginning, regardless of where you are, is you create an organizational chart with all the different tasks and all the different roles that exist in your business. So for instance, one of the roles might be backlinker, and there might be content writer. And then you could say, okay, I need 2 backlinkers. So then you have backlinker times 2, content writer times 5, however many you have. And these are, put their responsibilities in their inside of a box so that they know. It's okay at the beginning, if you're just starting out, that your name appears in every box. But as you need to have a structure and a foundation to start putting these people in these positions. And you need to have those spots limited so that the people understand clearly what their roles and responsibilities are and what they're going to be held accountable for. Okay. So this is something that is a part of Traction right here, this book. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. So as you hire people, you need to tell them from the beginning what the expectation is. Okay. So for us, this is a sheet that we use, and this is straight out of this book. This isn't something that I was smart enough to create. This is something from that book, right? Okay, so I came up with 5 core principles for my business here. So you can see excellence, do what we say, enthusiastic, competitive, tenacious. That's kind of like all under 1. Continuous improvement. This is both like kind of on and off the court, right? Let's explain more about what these mean. And then action oriented. So as I bring people on and I'm educating them on our business, I want to find out if they even want to be a part of our business. And I'm going to explain to them how they're going to be evaluated. And if you got to see if their core values line up with the core values that you want in your business. So for instance, excellence. I tell people, look, we are going to be the best at what we do. We're going to destroy the competition. We're going to beat them. And I want people like everybody in the agency, for us to be successful with this and for us to be efficient, everybody's got to be on board with these same things. So we got to have excellence, right? Do what you say. So that means we're going to do what we say. That means if you say you have a deadline, like you have a deadline on Friday, we agree on it, it's going to be done on Friday. And it also, it's throughout everything. It's an integrity thing, okay? So that means like, if we say to our clients that we're going to deliver 25, 50 leads a month, you know, we never give them a guarantee on leads, but if we say that we're going to deliver an amount, then we're going to do that, or we're going to find a way to make it right. And so these principles, you know, people are going to come into your agency and they're going to need to make decisions. And you don't want them coming to you for every single little decision. So if you give them kind of a guiding light in these different situations and say, this is how you're going to be evaluated, then this can help them live up to what if you never tell them, how do they know what to do other than just like guessing? So set this stuff from the beginning and use this to evaluate these people. Okay, so do what they say. Enthusiastic, competitive, tenacious. So I don't want somebody who's like, you know, half-hearted, going through the motions, like not really happy to be here. Like that's just not going to work in my agency. So I let people know from the beginning. Competitive is like, we're going to find the competition and we are going to just like absolutely obliterate them. And we're going to be tenacious with it. We're going to be relentless getting to our goals with this stuff. So that's a part of it. That's what I'm looking for in you know, in an employee, right? Continuous improvement. So this is like, in our agency, we want to always be improving. We want to find better ways to do things, more efficient ways. And, you know, I'm looking for somebody that has that, but I also want somebody in their own life that's doing that. Because like, as Dan says, right, how we do one thing is how we do everything. So I'm looking for somebody that has that attitude in all parts of their life. You know, I think that's a mindset. So I let them know that's what I'm looking for, right? Action oriented. That means if you see a problem, don't sit on your hands because it's not your job. This, that's not my job, doesn't exist in my agency. Everybody knows that. Like, if there's a problem, solve it, right? Or bring it to someone's attention. But seeing that there's a problem, doing nothing about it is never going to be acceptable, okay? So these are just the 5 I came up with. You guys come up with what you think is most important, okay? So these first 5 right here are evaluated on a plus minus, or a minus. So plus means that this is the best, right? Plus minus means that it's like, they're doing all right on it. And then minus means they're not doing good on it, right? These last 3, get it, want it, and the capacity to do it. Okay, so these are going to be yes, no's. You cannot tolerate any no's in this area with someone. Okay, do they get it? Do they understand what they're supposed to be doing? Want it? Do they actually like want to do it? Are they motivated to do it? Because if they're not, then this is just not going to work, even if they get it, right? And then the capacity to do it. So this is like, are they smart enough to do it, right? Do they understand the process? Do they have what they need? Do they have like whatever systems? Maybe they're like, the first 2 are great, but their internet connection is no good and they can't solve that problem. And you know, for whatever reason, you can't solve it for them either. So they can't do this. Or maybe they're working another job and they're always tired. So you can't tolerate any no's in these areas here. So these are yes, no's. These are the plus minus, and the minus, right? So you have kind of like, there's 3 different scenarios that can happen. You can have the right person in the right seat, which is great. That's perfect. That means that's going to work out perfect, right? It's going to work out really well. You can have the right person in the wrong seat, which means maybe they have these different things, but they're just doing the wrong thing. Maybe they're showing up, they're trying really hard, but they're just not a salesperson, right? So you need to maybe move them over to a different position that's really going after their strengths. Or you can have the wrong person in the wrong seat, and that means there's no spot for them in your agency, okay? And look, this is your guys' business. You guys are working really hard. You're spending a ton of money. Sometimes we got to let people go. It's not fun. It's not easy. But this isn't a charity. And they're not going to be happy long term if they're not performing, because there's always going to be this friction. There's some job out there somewhere for them where they're going to be happier. So you guys got to make that tough decision, and you can use this to kind of evaluate it. All right. So as we move through our agency, and we've got like this 2-tiered structures of managers that are managing other employees. We need to keep track of what they're doing, and we need to make sure that they're being successful, right? How can we do that, right? How can we, if we're not the ones managing them, how can we enforce that our managers are doing the right things? So here's what we came up with, or what we're using. It's called a scorecard. Okay, so in this book, Traction, that I was talking about, they go through all this stuff. This is just my interpretation of this and how I've implemented it in my business. So here's what we came up with for our backlinkers, okay? So we have a point system. Everybody in our agency has a number, okay? So that number is going to be made up from like points, and we're gonna get a weekly scorecard that updates us on how they're performing within our agency. We're going to come up with the metrics that we think are important. So for backlinkers, I think this is something that's easy to understand. Let's say they get a blog post live See how they all say live? That doesn't mean that they requested it. The link actually needs to be live. So this is how many they actually achieved of that. And this is a multiplier. That's kind of the importance of this. So through this, you can change the motivations of what your people are going after based on what's important to you, right? So the goal is to get as many points as possible. So you take the number that they got and you use the multiplier to come up with the total number of points. And as you start to scale and you have more people in more positions, you're going to have this metric where you can compare these people. So let's say in my agency, we have like 4 or 5 backlinkers, right? So they've kind of got all similar tasks. How do I compare these two? How do I know who's performing better? So each on Monday, everybody has their scorecard due. Okay, so now I can look through and I can determine who's performing the best. And my managers that are managing these people, part of their score is the performance of the people that they're managing. So now it puts everybody on a level playing field. Additionally, it adds in like a layer of gamification, right? It sets us up to create competitions. So like now I can incentivize people. I can find out where the weak links are in my business. I can find out where the strong links are. And there's no bias here. Your bonuses and your raises and promotions are based on your performance. And we're coming up with the metrics and we're coming up with the scores of the things that we think are important. So everybody in your agency gets a number. So that's a big thing, right? Also, we have what's called rocks. Rocks are like a 90-day goal, right? So one of the things that it will tell you in this book is you're going to set up like a 10-year goal, a 3-year goal, a 1-year goal. And then you're going to work backwards from those. So in your 1-year goal, if it's like, hey, I want to get to $10,000 a month, then you need to be at $5,000 a month 6 months into it, right? Otherwise, you're off pace. And this growth is not always going to be linear, right? So maybe I'm not going to be at my goal is $10,000 after a year, but 6 months I'm only going to be at 2,000 because I know that the lifetime of this, like the process is going to take longer in the beginning and then the money's going to come in faster in the end. You need to have an explanation for why that's the case, but you work backwards and you say, okay, so my 90-day goals are going to be made up of like 12 to 13 weeks, right? So each week I need to be moving towards that. And you get everybody in your agency in alignment. Everyone's got a 90-day goal of what they're trying to achieve. So for the backlinker, it could be like you need 1,000 links in 90 days, right? So now you can like get everyone on the same page with your agency. Everyone's kind of swimming in the same direction and you kind of get all this momentum. They understand how they're being evaluated. They understand these, like their point system. You give them bonuses on points. They can see the light at the end of the tunnel because they know that as they perform better, they have the ability to shine. They've got a pathway. You've created that for them. You've set yourself up with a way to manage these people and you set it up in a way that you can scale because now you can evaluate all these people. I mean, you can look at this thing in 30 seconds and you can understand how well they're performing. Like how else are you going to do that when you're trying to manage all these different people if you don't have? So these like KPIs or key performance indicators, you build up this stuff, you have points, calculation, sets you up for competition, gamification. So I'm not going to go through all parts of this book. Those are just some of the highlights. If you think this is interesting to you, if you think this can help your business, I highly recommend you check out this book, Traction, or maybe just start putting some of this stuff in place. But I think it's really important. It's certainly helped us. I can see us scaling now a lot bigger, and you know, me removing myself from being the bottleneck with this multi-tiered structure that allows me to understand every different part of my agency in just a few minutes by looking at their scorecards, their weekly scorecards. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope this helps. Let me know whatever questions you have with this. All right. Thanks a lot.